Okay guys, so this is number 2 from the mock STAAR. So it says triangle ABC is similar to triangle FGH. And so what you're going to do is try to find the value of x in centimeters. So let's go ahead and determine which are corresponding sides. So AB corresponds to FG. We can see that multiple different ways. We could see it up here because it says A, B, and then F, G. It goes in alphabetical order. Or if we got that see-through wax paper, you could trace it and flip it. And now we have to compare sides. We have to find corresponding sides for BC. So let's do BC a different color. And so what side corresponds with BC is GH. That's the one we need to find. So now you've set up a proportion. And so we'll do green over green equals blue over blue. Okay, so we're going to do the small shape over the large shape. So we'll do 9 over 13.5 equals 15 over x. Okay, now you cross multiply and divide by 9. So we're going to do 15 and 13.5. Remember, when you're multiplying decimals, you do not have to line up the decimals. So that's 25. 5 times 1 is 5, add 1 is 6. Put down your 0. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 3 is 3. And 1 times 1 is 1. So now you're going to add them up, and that would be 5, 12. 6 plus 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10, and this would be 2. So we also have one spot behind the decimal place, so we would have to move it right over here. So now you have 202.5. Remember, we still have to divide by the baseball. So 202.5 divided by 9. So 9 goes into 20 2 times, and that would be 18. And bring down another 2. And so 9 goes into 22. Again, 2 times. And that would be 18 again. Bring up the decimal. Okay, and this would be 4 and 5. So 9 goes into 45 5 times. So your answer here is 22.5 centimeters. All right, now let's look to number 3. If x equals 14, which equation is true? So all you're doing here is plugging in 14. So you just rewrite the equation with 14 inside of the parentheses instead of x. So 320 minus 14 equals 44. So first we're going to use GMDOS, so we know 20 minus 14 is 6. So now you have 3 times 6 equals 44, and we know 3 times 6 does not equal 44, so it's not A. Let's go on to B. So you have 3, 12 minus, again, plug in at 14 for x. 12 minus 14 equals 6. So we're going to subtract these, and remember, if you have 12 pirates, 14 ninjas, how many ninjas are you going to have left? You'll have 2 ninjas left, okay? So you have 3, a negative 2, and does that equal 6? 3 times negative 2 does not equal 6. It equals negative 6, so that's not right. So now let's move on to C. So again, plug in the 14 for x, so this would be 14 minus 3 equals 22. So again, GMDOS, so we're going to do the 14 minus 3 first. And so we know that's 11. So now let's rewrite it here. 2 parentheses 11 equals 22. And again, when we have these parentheses right here, 2, it means 2 times 11. So 2 times 11 does equal 22. So that one's right. Let's go ahead and check D just to make sure. So 2 times 14 minus 3. So if it just has an X here, you have to put the 14 in parentheses, okay? So 2 times 14 would be 28, and 28 minus 3 equals 25. Okay, this one's number 4, and it says a utility line runs underground through Shane's rectangular backyard. Shane is not allowed to dig within 3 feet of the utility line. The diagram below shows the dimensions of Shane's backyard in feet. The dashed line represents the utility line. What is the area in square feet of the part of the backyard in which Shane is allowed to dig? So let's go ahead and underline is allowed to dig. So remember, he's not allowed to dig throughout this part right here. So let's go ahead and make this a square to make sure or a rectangle to make sure we understand that. So we have 3 different shapes to find. We have this little part over here. We have the 2 3 feet rectangles that he's not allowed to dig. And then we have the big rectangle. Those are the 3 different shapes that we have. So you could do this multiple different ways. The way I will show you is just by finding this area and this area, okay? Because we're not allowed to dig here, so there's no point in finding it. Now, you could find the whole thing and subtract it. That's another option. But let's go ahead and just find the area of this part and this part. So we know this big rectangle right here is 14 feet, okay? So if this is 14 feet, we have to determine what the area is. So it's 14 would be the base, 17 would be the height, and we know the area of a rectangle equals base times height, and so plug in the numbers, and that would be 14 times 17. So let's do that off to the side. So that would be 238. So we can write 238 right here. So we know that that's the area. And obviously this would be feet squared since it's area. So again, we're not going to even find that. We don't need that. So let's find this little part right here. So we know the entire length of the backyard is 22. The entire base, rather, is 22 feet. And we know that both of these little parts right here are 3 feet each. And we know this is 14. So if we know this right here goes to 14, and here is 6 more, because 3 plus 3, what would this little part be? So let's add them up. We have 14 right here, 6 right here, so that's 20, but we have to find it out of the 22. So we're just going to subtract that, and 22 minus 20 is obviously only 2. So this spot right here is only 2 feet. Okay? And we know the length, or whether the height is 17, because it's the same as over here because it's a rectangle. So now we just multiply 17 times 2. So area equals base times height. Area equals 17 times 2. Okay? So 17 times 2, let's do that one. So 34. So now we're asking what is the area of the spot that he is allowed to dig. So we actually have to add this and this together. So let's do that real quick off to the side. So 238 plus 34. So 8 plus 4 is 12. 3 plus 3 is 6. Add 1, that's 7, and 2. So 272. Again, areas in units squared. So that's 272 feet squared. So that was number 4. So this next one is number 5. And it says, the table shows the price of some breakfast items at a restaurant. Sarah ordered 2 eggs, a slice of bacon, and a glass of orange juice for breakfast. The sales tax for the order was 48 cents. She paid for her breakfast with a $10 bill. How much change should Sarah receive from the $10 bill? So remember, the thing that it would confuse some of us is to figure out exactly what she did buy. So she had 2 eggs, 1 slice of bacon, 1 glass of orange juice, okay? And the sales tax was 48 cents. So 1 egg is $1.69, but Sarah had 2 eggs. So we're going to do $1.69 times 2. So that's 18. 6 times 2 is 12. Add 1 and that's 13. 1 times 2 is 2. Add 1 and that's 3. And we have 2 spots behind the decimal. Okay, so that would be $3.38 for the eggs. Okay, she only had 1 slice of bacon and 1 glass of orange juice, so we can just add those as is. Remember, we line up the decimals when we're subtracting, adding, and dividing. SAD. Okay, so right now we're adding, so we're going to line up the decimals. So 9 plus 9 is 18. Add another 8 to it, and that's 26. 3 plus 4 is 7. Add 2 to that, and that's 9. Bring down the decimal. 3 plus 1 is 5. So 5.96. Well, we don't see one of those options, but we still have this right here, this 48 cents. That's the tax, so we have to add that on as well. So 6 plus 8 is 14. 9 plus 4 plus 1 would be 14. Bring down the decimal and add that 1 up there to the 5, and that makes 6. So $6.44. All right, so now we're moving on to number 7. It says Lawrence's father gave him 200 baseball cards. Each week, Lawrence purchases 25 baseball cards to add to his collection. Which inequality can be used to find W, the number of weeks after starting his collection, when Lawrence will have more than 750 baseball cards in his collection? More than. So we can already eliminate a couple options here because we know it says more than, so that would mean it has to be that symbol, greater than symbol. Okay, so let's look at some answer choices and eliminate. We can eliminate A because that's the less than symbol, and we can eliminate B. So now it says Lawrence's father gave him 200 baseball cards. Each week Lawrence purchases, each week. Each usually means the variable is going with that number. So each week Lawrence purchases 25 baseball cards to add to his collection. So if we know the variable goes with the number that says each, that means 25 will have the variable. So we could do 25 W for weeks plus 200. We know it's a greater than symbol, and we need to find how much weeks it's going to take to get more than 750 baseball cards. So let's see if that's one of our options. There it is. It's D. And now let's move to number 8. Circular tablecloth has a radius of 2.5 feet. Kyle is sewing a piece of ribbon around the edge of the tablecloth. If Kyle has exactly enough ribbon, which measurement is closest to the length of the piece of ribbon in feet? So we're going to draw a circular tablecloth, and that is as close as you'll get to a circle from me. So if we know that Kyle is sewing, well, first of all, let's look here. There's a radius of 2.5 feet. Remember, diameter is all the way across, radius is from the center to the edge. So this would be 2.5 feet. Kyle is sewing a piece of ribbon around the edge of the tablecloth. If Kyle has exactly enough ribbon, which measurement is closest to the length of the ribbon in feet? So we know 2 things about circles. We know how to find 2 things, circumference and area. So now we have to determine which one are we talking about. Remember, circumference is you can think of it as like the perimeter of a circle, right? So it's if you were to wrap something around the edge of the circle, that would be the circumference. The area would be everything inside of this circle right here. So if we're looking for the outer edge, it's the circumference. If we're looking for anything inside, that's area. So it says so Kyle's sewing a piece of ribbon around the edge. So that tells us we're looking for circumference. And remember, circumference formula is 2 pi r, or pi times diameter. And I told my students just to find the diameter because that's easier to do it that way. So circumference is pi times the diameter, and we know that the diameter is twice as much as the radius. So let's figure out what the diameter would be then if the radius is 2.5. So we know 2.5 times 2 would equal 5. So the radius, or the diameter, is 5, okay? So now we're going to plug our numbers into this formula. Circumference equals 3.14 times 5. So now we're just going to multiply. So 3.14 and 5. So we have 15.7. We need to move the decimal over 2 times. It's 1, 2. And I see that one right here.